Candidates, you may be seated. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Shield Center for Performing Arts here at the North Campus of Oak Grove Lutheran School. My name is Dan Roach, and on behalf of the class of 2014 and our distinguished guests, allow me to welcome you to this commencement ceremony honoring our graduation candidates. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Matt Flores, our Director of Campus Ministry, to provide the invocation.
Good afternoon. It's a little warm in here. That's all right. The mission of Oak Grove is to express God's love by nurturing students for academic achievement, lifelong Christian commitment, and loving service throughout the world. Let us hope and pray that our graduates remember just that. Please pray with me. Gracious God, we thank you for a beautiful afternoon. We thank you for a group of beautiful, wonderful graduates. We thank you for the abilities that you've given them. We thank you for the accomplishments that they've achieved. We thank you for their parents, their families, their loved ones that have helped and supported them. We thank you for their futures. We ask that you would put your warrior angels around them, guide them, protect them, keep them in your care. In Jesus' name, amen.
Welcome everyone. Again, I'm Jenna Zeski. I'm going to make this pretty short and sweet due to the fact that we have some awesome and well-deserving valedictorians waiting on the edge of their seat for their turn to speak. To start off, it is an absolute honor to be named salutatorian for the class of 2014. If I had to describe my class in one word, it would be overachieving. I mean, look at our valedictorians. We have 3 this year, all who ended with a cumulative 4.0 GPA. Also, 25 out of 40 of us seniors maintain a cumulative GPA of at least a 3.5. In addition, we have a National Merit Scholar in our class. That's just amazing. This class is driven to succeed. They are all beyond ambitious in everything they do. Every single member of our class has so much potential, and their ability to attain it is even greater. If I had to describe this class in another word, it would be passionate. Whether it is about clubs, sports, snowmobiling, choir, theater, protecting the environment, leading clubs, or making people laugh, every single one of us has our own unique passion. The wide varieties of our set enthusiasms make the class of 2014 a very special group of individuals. So with that, I'd like to give out some thank yous. To the parents, thanks for supporting us and pushing us throughout high school. We understand that this was probably the hardest 4 years of parenting that you've ever endured. Just ask Stephen Ellen. But again, we'd really like to thank you for all that you've done in this very special time of our lives. To our faculty, teachers, administrators, and anyone else associated with Oak Grove, thanks for creating a place that is unique in its kind. Oak Grove is honestly a place that I've called home for the past 7 years, and I'm beyond grateful to have had the ability to be a part of this thriving community. I sometimes wonder what it would have been like to attend other high schools, but after a couple seconds of thought, I remember that nothing can beat our school's faith-filled, passionate, and supportive atmosphere like ours at Oak Grove. So thanks again. To the class of 2014, thanks for making this easily the best 7 years of my life. It's not because of a certain few of you. Each individual has made this experience 100% worthwhile. We've all rubbed off, shaped, and molded each other into strong, successful, and one-of-a-kind individuals. Whether you've been here for 7 years or 2, we've become one big family. With that in mind, it is especially hard to see all of us part in our separate ways after today, but I'm excited to see what the future has in store for each and every one of you. I'm really going to miss you all. In closing, I would like to wish the absolute best of luck to you in the next chapter of your life. I hope you truly find your passion and pursue it wholeheartedly, because I know all of you can and will make a huge impact out in the real world. Thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Colin Asham, and to start off my speech, I would like to read a quote from George Washington in a letter that he wrote to his nephew. To point out the importance of circumspection in your conduct, it may be proper to observe that a good moral character is the first essential in a person, and that the habits contracted at your age are generally irreversible, and your conduct here may stamp out your character through life. It is therefore highly important that you should endeavor not only to be learned, but also virtuous. This quote basically says that since we are young, what we do now will determine what we do with the rest of our lives, and therefore we should strive to gain knowledge and also virtue. We are presented with an extraordinary opportunity to decide who we will become through our actions. We've each been blessed with different skills and talents, whether it is artistic ability, high intelligence, physical ability, wit, comedy, or even all of these. Some may have been given more than others, but the fact remains that everyone has a gift. With that gift, one can choose to let it lie dormant and live an acceptable, comfortable existence. However, I urge you to use your skills and talents which you have been given to go out and bless the world, and in return, I promise you will receive an exceptional, constantly rewarding life. For those to whom much has been given, much is expected, and we all have been given something. We have all been given the opportunity to make a difference in the world with the gifts and talents we've been blessed with. The only question that you need to ask yourself now is, how will I continue to use them? What will I do to grow my character so that I may have an opportunity to change the world? The answer to this is to choose to search for opportunities where your resolve will be tested. You must choose to seek out the best both in yourself and in your work. You must choose to put yourself into situations where you have no choice but to lean on God. Our characters have been given a strong base through Oak Grove by choosing to go on mission trips, by choosing to use our physical abilities, by choosing to strive for wisdom and knowledge, and most of all, by choosing to serve God. We have built the basis of our character. We now have the opportunity to build on that foundation and reach our full potential. And I believe that Oak Grove has provided all the tools and experiences necessary for us to enable us to do that. Now, we only need to make the choice to live our lives to the fullest and to become people of great character. A person with great character will be known as a hardworking, selfless individual. That individual will choose to make decisions that honor the values they have formed, and they will choose to fully trust and wholeheartedly depend on God throughout all of their life. They will choose to seek wisdom. They will choose to act upon their beliefs. They will choose to forgive those who have done wrong, to be a person of confidence, to be an individual of integrity, and most of all, they will choose to persist without exception for the greatness that God has made available for them. This should be our endeavor, to pursue the wealth of wisdom and fulfillment which God offers to us. With such a long legacy of success, Oak Grove will no doubt act as a great starting block for creating ourselves as individuals of excellence, as individuals of great character, as people of God. Thank you.
Well, hello. My name is Raina Bergstrom, and I'm going to start this off with just a bit of a story. So, a few months ago, I was walking along a beach in Haiti with my new friend Franz Lee. It was our second to last day in Haiti, and we'd driven 4 hours to spend one of our last days relaxing in a resort after a week of doing eye care in a hospital in the small village of Pignon. We'd welcomed Franz Lee, an 18-year-old native Haitian boy, to join us because despite living only 30 miles from the beach, he had never seen the ocean before. As we walked along that sugar sand beach with the waves lapping at our ankles, Franz Lee told me his plans for his life. He shared how he dreamed to do well in school so he could someday attend college and become a doctor, and of how he wanted to start a coffee shop in his hometown to make the money to support this goal, and above all, how he wanted to come to the United States one day so he could finally live the life of opportunity he had always dreamed of. As he was telling me all this, I suddenly felt very guilty. I'd always wondered why God had blessed me and so many of my friends with amazing opportunities when a vast majority of the world still lived in poverty. Why had God bless my friends and I with so much and not other people such as Franz Lee? Franz Lee had all the dreams in the world but lacked the resources to achieve them. I compared him to myself, who still has no idea which direction I want to head with my life. Now, I've always believed that to those much is given, much is expected, but how does one use the gifts and abilities God has given them to succeed in life and still glorify Him in the process? It's hard. Now, I realize many of us seniors don't know exactly what we want to do with our lives. However, this past year I've come to realize that not knowing is actually okay. Despite being the kind of person who likes having a clear roadmap for everything, I'm slowly realizing that God gives us options for a reason. Yes, He has a plan, but God gives us our freedom to choose to keep life exciting. And what an exciting past year it has been. As a class, we've been challenged, We've learned and explored ourselves deeper than we ever have, and in the process, we made some incredible memories and grown individuals who are now ready to take on this next phase of life. As Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Oak Grove has given us the foundation to spread our wings and soar into this next chapter of our lives. The school has given us the environment to be curious while instilling in us a passion and calling to serve and love others, but most importantly, encouraging our walk with the Lord. Classmates, throughout college and the rest of your lives, I challenge you to continually grow in your faith, because God is the master designer, creator, and artist of all our lives. He knows us well enough to create a masterpiece that will use all of our talents and abilities if we let Him. As Ephesians 1:17-18 states, my prayer for you, friends, is for the God of glory to make you intelligent and discerning in knowing Him personally, your eyes focused and clear, so that you can see exactly what He's calling you to do, to grasp the immensity of this glorious way of life He has for His followers. I challenge you to hear the inner voice of God's will in your lives, because His plan will be crazy and amazing if we allow Him to take control and have the paintbrush. Thank you.
August 27th, 2007. That's when I met 26 of you. When you were wide-eyed sixth graders, new to the North Campus, just starting the journey that would bring you to today. Now, I loved the time I spent exclusively in the middle school, but I love most that I got to travel with you to the high school. We have been together for 7 years, and I have happily watched as you accepted and befriended the 14 who joined you. You have forged lifelong friendships. What impresses me most is that you accept and respect everyone in your class. Imagine my surprise when a group of you came into the office and asked me to speak at commencement. You very convincingly said, "You see all of us in the office." How right you are. Advil, Tylenol, Band-Aids, cough drops, messages, deliveries from home, and passes. I knew when you had been or were sick, when you were late, when you needed to leave for sports or appointments, when you took trips, when you had family emergencies, when you were hurt, when you were naughty, when you were signing up for something, when you were nervous, when you were happy, or even when you were bored. I especially loved it when you were bored and just stopped in. From my desk, I saw you at your best and at your worst. You are outgoing, happy, entertaining, and I have watched as you have become accomplished athletes, musicians, actors, and scholars, all while caring for your fellow Grovers enough to lead the charge for the common space that is now Grover Grounds, a place for everyone else to hang out. But it's not just passes and meds in the office. I also do the activity certificates and the grades. So I know how involved you have been and how hard you study. The diversity and number of your activities amazes me. Please don't stop being active once you leave Oak Grove. Don't let yourself become absorbed by your college major and GPA. Don't forget to have fun. If you were in choir, keep singing. Every college has an anybody choir. And there is a university band out there with students from every major. If your passion was a club or a sport, find one that matches your interests and get involved. And please, don't forget to stay connected to your faith. Find a Lutheran center, a Bible study, a local church. In the book, The Last Battle, C.S. Lewis writes, all their life in this world and all their adventures had only been the cover and title page. Now, at last, they were beginning chapter 1 of the great story which no one on earth has read. Seniors, in your years here at Oak Grove, you have written a fantastic cover and title page. From my perspective, I see 40 incredible young adults who are motivated, respectful, and thoughtful. Your chapter 1 is going to be fun to read. For anyone who has doubts, take a look at this group and know that the future is in good hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. First of all, I'd like to announce that we will be beginning a compressor replacement fund today. If the rumor hasn't spread throughout, we are running on 2 of 4 parts of the system, and obviously it's not keeping up. But so we apologize, but I guess that's life as a private school. First of all, I want to offer my welcome and congratulations to the class of 2014. You've already heard, in many ways, this is an amazingly talented, frankly, an astounding group of young people. And we're just privileged to have them leaving here as the class of 2014. And to the parents and family gathered to be here to honor you, welcome. And as you can see, there's a lot of family and friends to do the same thing. It is my privilege today to introduce our commencement speaker, who after 24 years as a legislator, both in the North Dakota House and Senate, representing District 42 in Grand Forks, and then concurrent 23 years in private law practice, Wayne Stenjum was sworn in as North Dakota's Attorney General on January 9th, 2001. Today, now more than 13 years later, he's the longest serving Attorney General in the state's history. As a legislator and chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Wayne was actively involved in crafting the state's open record and meeting laws, as well as many of the drug and law enforcement laws. It seems like some of those open record laws were quite in the news last year, if I recall. There's lots of examples how the Attorney General's commitment to things like protecting the public through statewide sex offender website, numerous programs aimed at drug law enforcement and curbing drug use, as well as a very unique state program for prescription drug turnaround, which is still one of the most unique programs in the country. Also near and dear to us, he's championed the anti-bullying program, which has affected both public and private schools throughout the state. Now, Attorney General Stenjum has been on the speaker circuit at Oak Grove here every 7 years, which so happens to coincide with the graduation of Michaela and now Mackenzie Titus, who would call him Uncle. And so we're just thinking that 7 years out, there will not be a Titus in the crowd, but we're hoping we can book him to keep him on this regular cycle. But if you would help me in extending a warm Oak Grove, a very warm Oak Grove welcome to North Dakota Attorney General Wayne Stenjum.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm going to turn just a little bit towards our guests of honor today. I really do appreciate the opportunity to be back here. Every 7 years, there's no known connection to the statute of limitations that apply and things like this. But it is my second time. The first time I was asked to come and speak at the commencement for my favorite niece, Michaela. And today I'm happy to be here to speak for my other favorite niece, Mackenzie. And then I know out in the crowd are some further favorite nieces of mine. And I want to welcome all of those and remind you that the only way you can maintain your status as favorite uncle is to be able to negotiate landmines like that. So thank you for that. You mentioned about being out on the speaking circuit, and I do that quite a bit. In fact, I was kind of surprised when I was first sworn in as Attorney General at the number of events that I'm asked to come and speak at. And so I went over to my friend, our Secretary of State, Al Jaeger, and I said, Al, you've been in public office longer than I have, and you must be giving a lot of speeches too. How do you handle that with giving public addresses, plus all the duties that come with serving in office? And he said, well, Wayne, the secret is you give the same speech everywhere you go. And I said, well, what happens when you get invited back? And he said, I've never been invited back. So it's a real pleasure to be invited back here on so many levels. And I want you all to know, and I'm not kidding when I tell you this, that when I was in high school, so fearsome and terrorized was I about the prospect of speaking in public that I promised back then I would never take a job that required public speaking of any kind. So you never know. You never know where life takes you, and I'm going to tell you why that fear exists in just a couple of minutes. But first of all, congratulations to you graduates and to your remarkable achievement. While I'm the lucky one who gets to stand here today to visit with you, I'm only here in a representative capacity, so on behalf of all the moms and dads and aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas, family and friends, please know how very proud of you we are. And I'm well aware of the reputation that graduation speeches have as well, but I know that George Marshall, who introduced the Marshall Plan that he inaugurated for rebuilding Europe after World War II, took just 11 minutes to explain it. The Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln took just over 2 minutes. The guy who spoke before Abraham Lincoln was a man named Edward Everett. He spoke for over 2 hours. He said later to Abraham Lincoln, I would be glad, he said, if I could flatter myself that I came as near to the central idea of vocation in 2 hours as you did in 2 minutes. So we all know which speech is better remembered today. And in church, I remember that my dad would very often remind the minister, he would say, 98% of the souls are saved in the first 14 minutes of the sermon. And so, since I'm not here to save any souls, I just want to inspire you a little bit. I intend to do so in about that amount of time. But when I sat in a chair like each one of you now occupies, I had in mind the possibilities of my future. I knew I would go off to the university. I knew I wanted to go to law school. And in preparing my remarks today, I tried to decide or to discern if I could distill everything I learned in high school and ever since into a top 10 list. And so I have that top 10 list here for your consideration. And here they are. Number 10, see the world. We live in a big, wonderful world. There's life outside our comfort zone. And getting there, if you make it a priority, is not that difficult. You can learn a lot, eat well, and get yourself some fine memories. So go get a map, or go to Google Earth, create your bucket list, and I'm going to give you something just a little bit later to help you do that. You will never learn anything in an echo chamber. Number 9, build for the future. And I've been able to take my own advice and have been fortunate to be able to see many countries in the world and visit with people, experience culture, and widen my own horizons as well. I especially like, when I do that, to go and visit the cathedrals in some of the capitals and marvel at the sheer magnificence of effort that went into their construction. The Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, for example, is one of the most notable. It took 200 years to build. The workers who were there in 1163 to lay the cornerstone knew they would never be around to see the cross placed on the spire when the construction was done. They had the faith to know that their own efforts would be meaningful and useful only to people generations after they were no longer here. Then a couple of years ago, my wife and I spent Christmas in London. One of the other things we decided to do as long as we were there was to attend a Christmas Eve service at St. Paul's Cathedral. And although there was a cathedral on that very spot for 1700 years, the present building that is there has only been there 300 years. The first one was built in 604 by the first Christian king, whose name was Ethelbert. It was destroyed by a fire and was rebuilt in 680. The second cathedral lasted more than 300 years, and then it was destroyed by the Vikings, which is the last remarkable achievement by anyone known as the Vikings. It was again rebuilt in 962, and then that time it was destroyed by fire. So this time England had been invaded by William the Conqueror, and the new building took over 200 years to be built. So the ruins were demolished. The new design by noted architect Sir Christopher Wren, the one we see today, was completed in 1710. And each of the times that those cathedral was built, it took decades, even centuries to complete. And each and every time, the workers who were there to lay the cornerstone knew that they would never be around to see the cross placed on the spire when the construction was done. They only had the faith to know their efforts would be meaningful generations from then. St. Paul's Cathedral in London is the place where Sir Christopher Wren is buried. If you visit his grave in the basement, you will find no statue, no large memorial. There's simply a plaque there that says, "Reader, if you seek his monument, look around you." And isn't that true of what all of us do as well? Think of the monument of a different kind with the cornerstone laid by the pioneers who came here to North Dakota to what was a forbidding place 150 years ago. More modest cornerstones in terms of building, to be sure, but cornerstones of a sort nonetheless. Elwin B. Robinson chronicles that early life and history of North Dakota. He said, "The pioneers suffered incredible hardships and overcame tremendous adversities. The men came, usually attracted by the promise of free land, but occasionally on a whim, and they brought their wives with them, or they came and they sent for their wives later. These women endured much more than the men. Imagine, if you will, what life was like in the 1880s in North Dakota for a woman on the prairies, living in a sod hut built into the side of a hill, or a one-room log cabin which had one small window and a door, dirt floors, leaky roofs, and drafty windows, little fuel, one room, no furniture other than dry good boxes, barely any company, washing the clothes by hand and drying them inside in the winter, feeding a hungry, growing household of children, raising those children alone while her husband worked the land, canning and pickling and trying to ensure there was food for the winter, bearing her children with only the help of a neighbor, no electricity, no refrigeration in summer." And here in North Dakota, the spirit of our pioneers has survived the generations and lives on today as well. They were here building their own cathedral of a sort, out in our rolling hills, our plains, and the valleys of our state. And if you look around, you can worship too. You too, as citizens of North Dakota, are laying cornerstones for tomorrow. What you build today will matter for you and your children and for their children as well. So build for the future. Number 8, love your job. Love your job and take pride in it. You will spend most of your waking hours at your job, because not that long ago, few people had the luxury of having a job that they really liked. A job was merely a means by which people earned enough to feed themselves and maybe put a decent roof over their heads. They didn't talk about fulfillment and self-esteem. They didn't have much hope of doing anything other than what their fathers and mothers did. There was no upward mobility. Today we have a great deal more freedom to prepare for and to find a life work that brings us both income and fulfillment. Number 7, ignore the critics. Lincoln said, if I were to try to read, much less answer, all the attacks made on me, this shop might as well be closed for any other business. I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep doing so until the end. If the end brings me out all right, what's said against me won't amount to anything. If the end brings me out wrong, 10 angels swearing that I was right will make no difference. And Lincoln didn't have to contend, of course, with the internet. With the advent of the internet, there are no shortages of places to go where people will tell you all about the mistakes that you've made and how they would certainly do things better. Often anonymous people who don't even have to put their names on their submissions. I used to read them all the time, and then I learned never read them, especially just before you go to bed. I owe my wife Beth enormous thanks for that advice. Quit reading them, she said, you'll sleep better. After all, the only thing Google does is index what somebody posts on an internet site. You have no idea whether it is good advice, utter nonsense, or the rantings of a lunatic. The fact is, the critics may stop you from making mistakes, but it will also stop you from doing anything. We can all heed the words of George Bernard Shaw when he said, a life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful than a life spent doing nothing. And while you're at it, take some time to recognize your successes. You will certainly have failures and places where you come up short, but you will have successes as well, and you need to be sure to recognize them and not dwell on your errors. I want to give you an example that I have in front of me that came to me just a couple of months ago. The Bureau of Criminal Investigation is part of my office, and one of my agents got himself into a car accident, and he submitted, as you have to, a risk management fund motor vehicle accident report, which then comes to my desk, and this is the one that I got. I won't mention his name, but it says, Special Agent was traveling southbound on I-29, returning to Grand Forks. Several deer entered the roadway. Special Agent, through skillful maneuvering and expert driving, was able to miss all but one. Which brings me to number 6, laugh. I think we've all heard that advice often enough. The only thing left is to remind you is this: never forget it. Laugh and laugh and laugh until your sides hurt. It really is very good medicine. Laughter on one's lips is a sign that a person downbeat really has a pretty good grasp of life. Number 5, stop investing in things. Invest in memories. How many of us have found ourselves down at the mall at Christmas time, searching and meandering aimlessly, looking for something to buy for that special someone? Too often, it's not really something that's needed, it's something to have to wrap up. As for us in our family, we've decided to spend less time shopping and more time investing in memories. A trip, a night out, something that will be remembered years from now, long after we've forgotten the thing. Now, I want to quickly mention there's nothing wrong with tangible gifts, especially electronics. I'm thinking here of the flat screen, high-def TV I got at Christmas. But if you're meandering aimlessly in the mall trying to simply buy something, so you have something to wrap up, whether it's needed or not, consider instead giving something that will be remembered and cherished for years to come. Invest instead in memories. About 30 years ago, my dad decided that he would write poems for each of us for the presents he gave us at Christmas. He really wasn't very good at it, but that particular year, I'd asked from him for a coffee pot, one of those with the clock on it, with a timer so that you could fill it up at night and have coffee ready for yourself in the morning. So that's what I got, and it came along with this poem from my dad. Every day when you get up, your coffee's ready for the cup. You must remember evermore to set it up the night before. Okay, not exactly Shakespeare, not even Robert Frost, but though that coffee pot wore out, and I have bought at least 5 more since that time, every single night before I go to bed, I recite that poem from 3 decades ago, and I think of my dad, his little investment in a memory. Number 4, read the book. As I look back, I now realize why I can confess to you why I was so terrified of speaking in public. It goes back to my experience in the 7th grade, which was about several years ago, and until recently I had never admitted this to anyone. As often happens, we were all required in that class to do the dreaded book report. The rules were as simple as they are well known. Number 1, read a book. Number 2, get up in front of the class and tell everyone about the book. So I picked out a book that I'd gotten from my grandmother. Its name was Rascal, as best I remember it, and I think that it was about a raccoon named, of course, Rascal. As the day approached, I kept putting off reading my book. The night before it was due was a beautiful spring day, so instead of reading my book, so I'd be ready and prepared for the class, I went outside and played with my friends. The next day, the teacher began to call on the students at random to get up and give their book reports. I remember praying, please, God, don't let her call on me. I'll read the book tonight and I'll be ready tomorrow. The teacher continued to call my classmates to the front of the room, and each went up, and as they did, my prayers became more fervent and my promises became more earnest. The class period went by, and to my enormous relief, I was not called on that day. So I went home with a renewed enthusiasm and intention to read the darn book. So, did I? Well, it was another beautiful spring day. My friends were out playing. What could I do but join them? And so I did. The next day went by again, and the teacher calling on the students one by one to get up and give the book report. And again, I lucked out that day as well and wasn't called on. I felt like I had won the lottery. And I assured myself, no matter what, tonight I'm going to read the book. But I never did. I remember the terror that I felt when at last I was called on, and I walked slowly to the front of the class like I was headed for the execution chamber. I got up and I did what so many students do, and that is that I put the blurb from the dust jacket of the book into my own words, hoping that I would get by. Well, it turns out that the first thing they teach you in Teachers College is how to tell when the students get up and do their book reports based upon the blurb from the front dust jacket. So I don't recall what grade I got, but if it was anything better than a D, it was more than I deserved, and that was only because you got 1 letter grade just for walking up to the front of the class. So the lesson for me, and I hope for you, is read the book. You might luck out for a little while. You might find you can bluff your way along without truly knowing what you're talking about, but eventually you're going to be found out. Be ready by being prepared. Number 3, marry your best friend. This was suggested to me, not surprisingly, by my wife. She recalled her mom and dad, and she said, my parents have always been loving towards each other, she said. My sister was out on a date cruising down Main Street, Crosby, North Dakota, when her date said, look over in that other car at those old people sitting next to each other in their car. Isn't that disgusting? Of course, there they were, her mom and dad, cruising Main Street with not an inch in between them. So Beth brought home to me the other day this point. She said, you know, you can have everything else in the world there is to have. Money, power, a good house, all kinds of things. But if you come home every night to someone you just as soon not, then none of those other things really matter. Nothing can make life more enjoyable than having someone you truly care about to share it with. Number 2, mistakes are easy, atonement is hard. Volunteer your time. One of the lesser-known duties of the Attorney General is to serve on the Pardon Board. There are 5 of us on the board, and it's our duty to review the application of people who've been convicted of crimes, and now they say they have encountered problems because of it, and they feel they should get a pardon. Sometimes they're from people who are still in prison, and they want out. Sometimes they're just from people who never were in prison, but they found out that they are suffering consequences as a result of their actions. Gone are the days when you could be convicted of a criminal offense in some small community and there was a pretty good chance no one would ever find out. We have that information in our office, in the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and we give it all out to people who have a right to know it, and we do that 37,000 times a year. Often the petitions from the people asking for pardon will say something like, I paid my debt to society, I'm married now, I have a job, and I haven't been convicted of another crime. To me, that's not enough. Thank you for not getting arrested again, but frankly, that's kind of what we expect of everybody. I always ask, what else have you done? You get consideration for those extra things, volunteering for organizations and working for those causes that desperately need help. For coaching Little League, being a scout leader, serving on a church council, or helping the needy, donating a kidney, teaching Sunday school. These are the extras that entitle you to additional consideration. And then finally, my number 1 thing I've learned in life, and I call it my dad's belief, because it's something I learned from him. He's been gone for over 26 years now, but his little bit of wisdom lives on. For me, the most profound is an anecdote that he'd tell from time to time. He'd say, one day you will come face to face with your maker. I think of it as the great pardon board in the sky. And he'll ask you one single question, and it will go like this. In life, he will say, I gave you certain talents. Tell me what you did with them. There were loads of wisdom in that belief. First, it recognizes that everyone, the smart and the not as smart, the swift and strong, as well as the disabled, the handsome, and those less so, everyone, no matter their station or situation in life, has been given some special talents, a capacity to do good with what they have. He only mentioned that belief to me, by the way, from time to time. Maybe I heard him say it 4 times. Not so often that it was a warning, not so frequently it became a lecture, but just every once in a while, a simple statement that that's what he believed. I don't know if he ever said the same thing to my brothers and sisters, though I suspect that he did. He never asked me what my answer to the question might be. He simply stated the question, and he left it at that, assuming I might want to consider my answer for myself. But his belief made an impact, and it still does. I try to use what few talents I have to be able one day, if need be, to at least have a little something to say on my behalf if I'm asked that question. So there you have it, my top 10. Marry your best friend, build for the future, read the book, invest in memories, see the world, laugh, love your job. If you can do most of those things, I know you will find a happy and fulfilling life. And I have for you start your bucket list, and the places you want to see a little book that I have purchased at my own expense because you're not paying me to be here. That you can write places you want to see and things you want to do. And I'm going to bring them over there when I get done here in just a minute and present them to you. They cost $3. I got them at Big Lots. But I want to close today, as I did 7 years ago, with one of my favorite poems. It's called A Bag of Tools by Arlie Sharp. Isn't it strange how princes and kings and clowns that caper in sawdust rings and common people like you and me are builders for eternity? Each is given a list of rules, a shapeless mass, a bag of tools, and each must fashion ere life is flown, a stumbling block or a stepping stone. Thank you very much for having me here.
Hello everyone, my name is Becca Aker, and it's been my privilege for the past year to be serving as student body president at a place that is so near and dear to my heart. In the past few weeks approaching graduation, I began to reflect on my experience at Oak Grove. I looked at the various activities I participated in the classes I took, and I asked myself the question, what was it all for? Was I taking classes to learn new things or for an easy A? Was I being involved to simply build an impressive resume, or because I thoroughly enjoyed the activity? Reflecting on my high school career like this was overwhelmingly emotional, but the one lesson I took away from it all is this. The times I saw as failures were in fact some of my greatest successes. I realized that I did not need to be the best to be the most successful. My anatomy grade was by no means the best in the class, but I'm proud of it and see it as one of my greatest successes because the subject matter was challenging for me. My entire golf career ended after 2 years with no medals, no trophies, or really anything to show for. But that doesn't diminish the pride I have because I allowed myself to be vulnerable and try a completely new activity. There are countless other examples like this, and I encourage all of you to look at your own lives in the same way. Those times when you felt like a failure because you didn't get the highest grade, the state championship, the lead role, or enough votes for some position were not failures, nor do they define who you are as a person. We often find ourselves counting, listing, and recording our successes like they are the ultimate description of who we are as individuals. But as we graduate, I want to remind you that they are not. Neither our successes nor our failures define who we are. Rather, it is the way in which you respond to both success and failure that defines the kind of person you are. As you go on to this next part of your life, I hope you take this idea with you. There will be many disappointments in the years to come, as there are in the lives of all people. But I encourage you to approach these moments with positivity and optimism. You all should be proud of your high school career, no matter your successes or what you see as failures. Thank you for the past few years, for all of you have been a crucial part to the shaping of my life and who I am today. Always remember that you are not defined by your accomplishments or by your disappointments, but rather by the way in which you respond to these moments. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests, these candidates seated before you have met the requirements for graduation as set forth by the Department of Public Instruction of the State of North Dakota and the Board of Regents of Oak Grove Lutheran School. Will the candidates please rise to receive their diplomas? Rebecca Lynn Aker. Cole Andrew John Anderson. Colin Gregory Asham. Raina Christine Bergstrom. Jordan Marina Kane. Nicholas Olson Card. Dixon. Sarah Ann Marie Eaton. Nels Thomas Ide. Alex Alton Fairfield. Grant Joseph Fisher. Alexandra Dawn Crosley. Tatum Justine Holt. Simone Stevie Jacobs. Eric Jaw. Charles Matthew Johnson. Alexandra Grace Juby. Hannah Elizabeth Kelly. Alexander David Thorlocker King. Kiana Joe Corbel. Samantha Margaret Kanowski. Jeffrey Allen Blackman. Taylor Marie Lang. Chance Calvin Mistelski. Eric New. Rachel Lynn Osmondson. David John Peterson. Colton Robert Pierce. Austin David Promersberger. Audrey Renee Ross. Tucker Darwin Shanefish. Kenward Christian Steinbach. Mackenzie Stengium Titus. Megan Elizabeth Vandermeulen. Quinn Lorraine Balmers. Taylor May Welder. Grace Marie Wassing. And Jenna Marie Zeski.
What a pleasure. I've noticed the number of programs that are being used as fans have gone up markedly in the last hour or so I'll keep this really short. I've had the great opportunity to know just about all of these students for the last 6 or 7 years, and those that I haven't known that long have got to know them a little bit more recently, and they're just incredible group of young people. 3 quick things. First of all, congratulations. This is probably the first of the big milestones in your lives. Graduation, marriage, first child, first real job, graduation from college. So it's a real achievement. Congratulations on that. On behalf of the Board of Regents, congratulations on today. A second thank you. You guys have been just incredible representatives for Oak Grove over these last years, and thank you for that. Whether it's been in musical contests, theater, athletics, you've been wonderful mentors for the younger kids here at Oak Grove. You guys know that's how Oak Grove works. That the older students kind of show the younger ones how to be Grovers and what that means. And you've been absolutely just wonderful at that. So thank you. Thank you for all that you've done for one another as classmates and friends, but all that you've done for Oak Grove. And then third, I just would like to issue you a challenge. You've been blessed with many, many gifts. You guys are really, really gifted. You've also been blessed with the incredible opportunity to go to a school like Oak Grove, where you've had staff and faculty that come alongside you in ways much beyond just being your teacher. Miriam's a great testament to that staff and faculty that invest in your lives. And we center the Oak Grove experience around academics and faith and service. And you've had people that come along and have helped you grow in every one of those areas. You've also been blessed by God with just incredible gifts, unique gifts. And so my challenge to you would be, once you leave this place, don't take those things for granted. Build on that foundation that Oak Grove has provided for you, and take those gifts that God has blessed you with and use those to impact the lives of others. I truly believe that God opens doors in our lives, and sometimes we don't even recognize them. We don't see them because we're so busy, or we're not in tune with God's will. So just use your hearts, use your minds to use that foundation that Oak Grove has provided for you. Use the gifts that God has blessed you with to make the world a better place and impact the lives of other people in ways both big and small. Congratulations, and remember that Oak Grove will always, always be your home.
Before we dismiss our graduates today, can I have my staff stand please and give them a hand? Thank you for attending our ceremony today. The receiving line will form outside along the Centennial Walk. Please remain in your seats until the seniors have left the Shield Center. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present to you the Oak Grove Lutheran School graduating class of 2014.